I need to be honest with you about something. Most entrepreneurs I work with can analyze market data all day. They can create detailed business plans. They can talk strategy for hours. But when it comes to actually making a big decision that actually matters, such as hiring that expensive team member, or investing in new systems, or saying yes to the partnership opportunity that's gonna change their business, they freeze. And I get it, I used to be the exact same way. I'd spend weeks going back and forth on decisions that successful entrepreneurs usually make in minutes. But here's what I learned after making millions in revenue and helping hundreds of entrepreneurs scale their businesses too. The ability to make high stakes decisions quickly and confidently is not a talent that you're born with. It's a skill that you develop. And in this video, I'm gonna show you exactly how I went from overthinking every decision to making choices with complete clarity. Plus, the exact same framework that I use so that you can do the same thing. So let's dive into number one, identity-based decisions. Here's what most entrepreneurs get wrong. They make decisions based on their current identity and their current capabilities, and they usually ask something to the effect of, can I do this? Instead of asking, who do I need to become to do this? So they stay anchored in their current level of thinking, and they let their current limitations define their future possibilities. So here's how you fix that. Before any major decision, you have to ask yourself, what would the 10x version of myself do? You know, imagine if you had already accomplished that result that you truly want to accomplish, whether it's growing the company, whether it's your health, whether it's in your relationship, whether it's just buying a new home. Put it this way, if you had already accomplished that, let's just use having an amazing health. Imagine if you was already in the ideal weight with the ideal body fat percentage and you were running the marathon and you was already in that position and used that future pacing you, that future you, to actually make the decision for you. So imagine how you would feel then, what you would see then, what you would hear then. You know, imagine who you will be then, maybe even give it a name, and then basically make decisions from that identity, not the current one who's overweight. Become the person first and then make the decision. You can even close your eyes, see yourself as if it's already there 60 days from now, 90 days from now, a year from now, and just feel what it feels like then and see yourself in that moment and then begin decision making. Act as if you are already at the goal that you want. And what this does for you is it makes you comfortable with taking bigger risks and making bigger investments, and it gives you a natural progression to higher levels of business. And eventually your identity will drive your actions towards 10x results, and you'll break through your limiting beliefs automatically. So that was number one. Now, number two is similar but not the same. This is where we have to learn to be and then do and then have. That's the framework. What most entrepreneurs get wrong is they try to have the result first and then do the actions and then become the person who's got that result. So for example, if we take $1 million, usually you hear people say, I want to become a millionaire. I don't know why, but everyone wants to become a millionaire. So usually people are like, well, when I'm a millionaire, then I'll start social media, or then I'll, do the outbounds and reach out to cold prospects, or then I'll do the uncomfortable work that I don't want to do now, and then I'll have, then I'll be the millionaire, right? So they're like, well, when I have $1 million, then I'll do the work, and then I'll be a millionaire. It doesn't really work like that. We've got to switch it. You got to be the millionaire first, behave like the millionaire, think like a millionaire, walk like a millionaire, have the beliefs of you as a millionaire. And by the way, you can borrow someone else's beliefs, but not all millionaires are created the same. So it's like you as a millionaire, how you would live, how you would act. Be that person and take action in line with that identity. And then it's only inevitable that you'll have the $1 million, or in this case, you'll have the ideal weight, or you'll have the ideal relationship, or the ideal business. The problem we have with most people is they want security and proof before taking the risk. They're always waiting for enough credibility or the right moment before making the move. And the problem with that is, as much as, that sounds like the right thing to do, there is never really a perfect moment. I mean, I've been through many ups and downs, lefts and rights, and I can tell you right now, anytime I've put anything off and then actually ended up doing it, I've always thought to myself, wow, why was that so difficult? That was really easy. The right moment was actually 6 months ago. Why didn't I take the action? And then as a result, I've learned to just accept and align rather than grind with reality. Now I just align with it. If something happens and I don't feel like I have enough credibility or enough time, or it's not the perfect moment, I aim for progress, not perfection. And I aim to think about that person of me who's already accomplished the result, and then I take action in line with that person, and then I usually get the result. That's how I'm actually speaking to you today. The more that you do this, the more naturally you'll start to build confidence in high stakes situations. Your actions will begin to flow from your identity, not from a place of fear, not from a place of scarcity. Your results will come faster because you're already being it, and you're already at that end result, and it's just then now a matter of a waiting game before it actually becomes your reality. So you're already that person, you already attach yourself, associate with that person who is your higher self. You start to execute. The key word here is execute. Take the action. You can't just be the person. Some people are like, yeah, like I sit here and I visualize all day long. That doesn't really work, right? There's two people of two extremes. You have people that sit on the sofa and visualize all day, and then you have people that just, they're like pure grinding, pure hustling. And that technically works for a little bit of time, and then you burn out, and then it costs you a lot in your output per unit of time, but that's a thing for another day. So what you really want to do is be it, and then as a result, just believe it, and then you shall receive it. It's just a matter of a waiting game. So that's number two. Now, number three in terms of learning to become a better decision maker is actually learning to be cold-blooded when it comes to making decisions. Having cold blood clarity. What most entrepreneurs get wrong is they make decisions when they're emotionally activated. So they end up deciding from a place of stress, from a place of fear, or even, to be honest with you, a place of excitement, or a place of desperation, or a place from ecstasy. In this case, both are equally as bad. If you're too happy, not the right time to make a decision. If you're too pissed off, fearful, stressed out, not the best time to make a decision. Because what happens then is you let your urgency, in a positive or a negative way, override strategic thinking. So the best time to actually make a decision is when you can start to put your emotions aside, be very cold-blooded. You can even be ruthless. There's nothing wrong with being ruthless in this case. And, you get to a place where you can be super logical. If 1 + 1 does not equal 2, logically, making a decision emotionally will almost always be a wrong decision. Now, it is true that sometimes people say you got to make decisions fast. That's true, but that doesn't mean make them emotionally. You don't want to mix your emotions with your business logic. So here's how to fix that. Create a 24 to a 48 hour cooling off period. So give yourself some time. You can go for a walk, you can go to the gym. Give yourself some time to really walk away from a decision completely so you can empty your mind, come back fresh. And, if you're making a large decision, ask yourself this question, even write it down. If you were completely neutral about the situation, what decision would you make? How would you choose? Separate your emotions from data and strategy. Follow the data. The data will never lie to you. Because if it sounds too good, if it looks too good, it's probably not that good. So data will usually give you the right answer. And sometimes we try and escape the data because we don't like what it says. But the truth is, if you become cold-blooded when it comes to making decisions, look at data only. It is very, very difficult. Not impossible, of course, because unless you're psychic, you're never going to know up front if you've made the right decision or not. You're usually going to get that in hindsight. When you begin to use data and not emotions, you're going to begin to see the opportunities and the risks clearly. You're going to be able to make decisions based on your data and your intuition rather than your emotions. And eventually, in the long run, you're going to avoid very, very costly emotional mistakes. Whether it's firing somebody or hiring somebody, whether it's leaving a relationship or starting a relationship, whether it's making stupid purchases, whether it's putting up your costs, whatever it may be, eventually you will make costly mistakes if you do not use the data. And, more importantly, I would say the more data-driven decisions you make, the more that you will build a reputation as a strategic thinker, and people who usually come to you with bad offers will stop coming. That's what I've found anyway in my life. So it's a win-win in the end. So now number 4 is what I call the 10x decision matrix. And here's what most entrepreneurs get wrong about this. They think linearly, meaning if there's, a 10K decision, they're usually thinking 10K in, 15K out, and, it's always like just, apples for apples, pears for pears, and usually they're thinking in terms of the smaller framework. They're optimizing for what's safe, but they're not necessarily optimizing for how they're going to win. They're not necessarily optimizing for the opportunity. So really what we want to do is we want to allow ourselves to now start to optimize for the opportunities that are going to give us that 10x result, rather than optimizing for scarcity and playing it overly safe, is what I'm going to say, especially based on the last point I just made. We want to make sure that we're optimizing for the opportunity, allowing it to flourish. What most people do is they choose comfort over exponential growth. They end up focusing on minimizing the risk instead of maximizing the opportunity. And here's how you want to fix this. Ask yourselves, which option has a 10x potential? Which option has an exponential growth potential? Choose exponential options first, and then reverse engineer the risk managements after that. Think in possibilities, not limitations. What this unlocks is it allows you to break through your plateaus. It allows you to attract bigger opportunities. It allows you to build wealth faster through compounded decision making. It allows you to develop abundance mindsets naturally. So the goal here is always think in terms of what is the 10x potential. So now our last but not least decision making framework is number 5. And number 5 is allow your smaller decisions to be compounded over time. What most entrepreneurs get wrong is they stress over the large and big decisions, but they make sloppy small decisions because they think that those ones don't matter. Loads of small decisions actually compounded then become larger decisions, where sometimes we can kill the monster where it's small and make the right small decisions. And as a result, these small daily compounded small decisions allow you to have the capability to flourish and gain confidence in making the larger decisions. Because a lot of the time we think that when we get to the bigger thing, we're just meant to have the confidence. But really we want to practice on smaller decisions that allow us going forward to have and make bigger decisions more confidently with more clarity. One of the last things I want to add here in terms of how to fix this is practice decision making on small things first, even in terms of deciding what to eat, what to drink, and all that stuff. The second thing I want to really say here is, in order to avoid decision fatigue, try and automate some decisions. For example, when it comes to what time you go to the gym, or what time you eat, or what you eat. Actually, this is a good one. I actually just eat the same thing every day, so I don't have to think about it. So you can do the same. As a result, you won't have decision fatigue. So you'll be able to make these smaller decisions easier. And then when it comes to making larger decisions, you're going to have an amazing time making larger decisions because you don't have decision fatigue. So what you really want to look at is building that decision-making muscle. And just like any muscle in your body, if you overuse that muscle on stupid things, when it comes time to actually use it, it's not going to be there for you to use. So try and automate some of your decisions so you don't have decision fatigue. And then on the other end, just learn to make smaller decisions more wisely and more faster to build confidence in the smaller things, so that when the bigger decisions come, your confidence is there and you're ready. Look, I just gave you 5 frameworks that completely changed how I approach every major decision in my life and my business. And honestly, any one of those could be the difference between staying stuck and actually finally breaking through to the next level. And the thing is, you can have all the frameworks in the world, but if you're trying to implement this stuff alone, you're going to always hit roadblocks. Maybe you'll start second guessing yourself when the stakes get really high. Maybe you'll fall back into old patterns when the pressure's on. Or maybe you'll know what to do but struggle with actually executing it when it really, really matters. I've been there myself. And that's exactly why I work with entrepreneurs one-on-one. If you want to develop this skill and have unshakable decision-making confidence, the kind that lets you make million-dollar moves without losing sleep, then I'd love to help you. I've got a growth strategy session where we can dive into your specific situation together and figure out what's really holding you back from making those big decisions and actually create a clear plan to get you there. No pitch, no pressure, just a real conversation about where you want to go and how to get there faster. The link's going to be in the description somewhere, so book a time that works for you and let's talk. Either way, Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.